Development Award goes to Principal Dr. M. Suhail Lokhandwala. May we call upon Dr. Avinash Chiranjeev. Dr. Avinash Chiranjeev, National Green Computing Award. Bhaiyon aur bhaiyon, green computing is a buzzword, and we are going to have an encyclopedia on green computing under the leadership of Dr. Chiranjeev. We call upon Neelam Joshi, who received the National Ecological Feminism Promotion and Development Award. Ecological Feminism. We call upon Manish Kumar Sekhar, who is an RTI activist. Manish Kumar Sekhar ji hai. Kumar Chandan, may we call Kumar Chandan. Congratulations. Next awardee, Brahmachari Baba Satsang Samiti. May we call upon Engineer B.K. Singh, the Director of Brahmachari Baba. Brahmachari Baba Satsang Samiti. Next awardee is Center for Social Learning, Rajiv Ranjan Kumar. Dr. Vikas Mishra. For his work on environment, Dr. Vikas Mishra from Kanpur. Dr. Sanjay Kumar, please come. Dr. Sanjay Kumar. And there is a great announcement. The cyclist, ये पूरे यहाँ से पहले जाएंगे चाइना, उसके बाद किर्गिस्तान और उसके बाद फिर आगे बढ़ते हुए बेलारूस होते हुए रसिया होते हुए और यूरोप होते हुए लंदन जाना है. मुंबई से भी आए हैं और आते हैं जिनके हैं सलमान खान के आए. So before मंत्री जी goes, एक announcement है. आज हम we are announcing two important persons' name who are going to be admitted as fellow of the Indian Institute of Ecology and Environment. This is the highest conferment on any accomplished individual. So the awards are here, and we call upon Dr. Markandeya Rai and Dr. K.D. Singh. These two personalities are being announced as fellows. Please come. इन्हें बहुत बड़ा पुरस्कार मिल रहा है और इनका काम पूरे दुनिया में सराहा गया है। इन्होंने अभी तक 100 तरह की एनसाइक्लोपीडिया को छापा है, वर्ल्ड रिकॉर्ड एनसाइक्लोपीडिया को इन्होंने छापा है। अब हम लोग इनवाइट करेंगे मार्कंडे राय साहब। He is authority on environment and spent more than 30 years in the United Nations for doing his important work in Indian Institute of Ecology and Environment on the occasion of its 37th anniversary. Because the institute was inaugurated by Madam Indira Gandhi on 5th June 1980, and today we are admitting with pleasure Dr. Markandeya Rai as the Fellow of the Indian Institute of Ecology and Environment with all the rights and privileges appertaining thereto. Today, with the hands of the Honorable Minister, this fellowship certificate and memento is being presented. Friends, say thank you. And accordingly, Dr. K.D. Singh, Tanuja Singh ji, who has spent more than 25 years in Rome in the Food and Agricultural Organization FAO of UN, and in testimony whereof this fellowship is being granted to Dr. K.D. Singh. Congratulations. Mohammad Sadiq आए हुए हैं। मोहम्मद सादिक आए? मोहम्मद सादिक? एक मिनट। We have to. 1 minute. There is a social transformation agency for revival, and Mr. Abhishek Mishra is being invited. हर बार ऐसा होता है कि इस मौके पर नई संस्था जो होती है, हम कहते हैं उनका उद्घाटन आप इसी हॉल में करा लें, तो खर्च ना करें। तो एक नई संस्था आई है जिसका मुख्यालय मध्य प्रदेश में है, सोशल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन एजेंसी फॉर रिवाइवल, is being inaugurated today. So Mantri ji is giving a certificate to the effect that this has been inaugurated today. And the last one award is Vivekanand College, Delhi is getting a special award, and Dr. Sharma has to receive this important award. After this award, Honorable Minister Sahab has to go for another meeting. So we wish you best of luck, sir. और आप आगे भी हमारे इस कार्यक्रम में आते रहेंगे। मंत्री जी को जाना है, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। Program will continue. Now we call upon Honorable Dr. Glenn T. Martin, who is the President of the World Constitution and Parliament Association, who has a vision of uniting the entire world under one parliament. The Charter of the World Parliament is also drafted. But today, in his lecture, he will stress more on environmental sustainability. How shall we have a sustainable world? How shall we have an education policy, a job policy, and industrial policy, and a social policy? For that matter, different types of policies which could be sustained by our mother earth. We are seeing Delhi, the development policy of Delhi is not sustainable. Accordingly, most of the cities and most of the countries don't have a sustainable policy. So we call upon Dr. Glenn T. Martin to kindly briefly dwell upon these important points. Thank you, sir.
Sisters. I call you, why do I call you brothers and sisters? That's right. Where were we born? Where were you born? On earth. We were all born on the earth. We're all the same. We're all identical as human beings. And what have we done with this earth? We have divided it. Right? And this goes right back to the Vedas, which say, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, right? The world is one family. And the Vedas say those who understand, those who begin to understand that the world is one family, understand that small persons distinguish their family from others. They distinguish their race from others. They distinguish their caste from others. They distinguish their religion from other religions. But people who begin to understand the truth that the world is one family, that we're all born on the earth, they begin to understand what science, what every single science, since Einstein's theory of special relativity came out in 1905, has said that the fundamental structure of the universe itself is holism. One universe, interrelated, with all its parts interrelated and interdependent. The universe is not reducible to parts which stand alone. Every part is interdependent with everything else on Earth. And since the 1960s, we human beings have realized that we are threatened on this planet by ecological destruction. That's 60 years ago or more, right? We have known this, and scientists have been saying it for 60 years, that we are threatening our planet with ecological destruction. The oceans are collapsing, they're warming. A study just came out in the United States that looked at microparticles in the oceans. The oceans are filling up with plastic, invisible microplastic. Because every time our synthetic clothing gets washed all over the world, with its 7 billion people, billions of minute particles from that clothing, much of which is plastic, washes off, washes into the water, and eventually gets into the oceans. The atmosphere is dying. 4 times, I was told when I was here in Delhi last December, 4 times during that past year, the government of Delhi had declared the air unbreathable. What does that mean? Is it going to get better? Is the air going to start being breathable? It's collapsing all over, and the nations of concerned nations have gotten together and signed the Paris Climate Accords, the Paris Climate Treaty. And I want to urge you to think about the fact that that Paris Climate Treaty is an illusion which is going to lead to the destruction of our environment. And you young people are going to have to live with that. 40, 50 years from now, you will not have an environment if that Paris Climate Treaty is what we're hoping for. Because a treaty, any treaty in this world, is based on the sovereignty of the nations. That means nations sign and they can withdraw, just like the United States signed 2 years ago, and it has withdrawn from that treaty. And there is no enforceability. Every nation promises to reduce carbon emissions, but no one is punished if they don't do it. And every nation has alternative pressures on it. It has political pressures and economic pressures. Right now, in Brazil, the Parliament of Brazil is considering the Tapajos Dam project, which is a project, if it is passed, it would build 40 dams in the Amazon basin. 40 dams and flood 1,000 square miles of the Amazon. Do they have the right to do that? Legally, yes. Does the United States have the right under the current world order to withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord? Legally, yes. Right? Does India have the right to develop nuclear weapons in the land of Gandhi? Legally, under the current world order, yes. And that's why I am trying to indicate that the way we have organized ourselves on this planet into sovereign nation states, 193 almost all militarized sovereign nation states, and the way we have organized our economic systems, private profit, private companies owning the resources of this planet, both of those militate against sustainability. Both of those, if we don't change our economic system drastically to an economic system that's predicated on the dignity and value and worth of every single human being on this planet, and not on the rich who now make the laws in Delhi, who make the laws in Washington, D.C., who make the laws in London, not on the rich, because they're not interested in sustainability, but on everybody. Unless we can change that economic system, we're not going to have a future. But with that economic system and defending that economic system is a system of sovereign nation states. We have divided ourselves into absolute territorial borders. Everywhere you run up against a border. And the capitalists, with their greed, they move money back and forth across these borders with impunity. But you and I, trying to escape from the wars that they have started with their military interest in military action and so on, you and I trying to escape from the hellhole of Syria or Iraq or Afghanistan or Yemen or Libya cannot get out, because these imperial nations have raised walls on their borders. They don't want us there. But this earth belongs to all of us. So there is a document called the Constitution for the Federation of Earth. And one of our vice presidents here, Ahmed Paul, will be passing out a single page to you that talks a little bit about this document and what I'm about to say. But what people have done, hundreds of people have gotten together during the 1970s, 80s, and 90s, and they've written a constitution for the earth. And those of you who are in the universities, and those of you who are students and educators, please pay attention to this. It needs to be studied, it needs to be looked at, it needs to get out there so that people know that there is an alternative to death, an alternative to the destruction of our environment that supports us all, an alternative to 1% of the human beings on this planet owning 60% of its wealth. And 40% of the people, many of them here in India, in these vast cities like Delhi or Calcutta, where they sleep on the streets, live in hell, right? But the resources of the earth, they don't belong to the corporations, and they don't belong to the nations. Brazil does not have any right, moral right, to pass laws to flood the Amazon jungle. That Amazon jungle is the lungs of the earth. The air that we breathe is refreshed by that Amazon jungle. It belongs to all of us. It doesn't belong to Brazil. So we've got to join together on this planet as one family, as one human family, and begin governing ourselves. And the key, in my view, to doing that is a document that's already written, a blueprint, which allows us to do that. We come together in a world parliament. Beginning tomorrow at OP Jindal Global University, we have a conference. People coming from many places to meet. The name of the parliament, the conference is Building the World Parliament. How can we build a world parliament that represents everybody? And when it represents everybody, it makes laws for everybody. It does it under a constitution which is predicated on sustainability. Sustainability means the people of Earth own and are responsible for the resources of the Earth. The Constitution says the oceans are owned by the people of Earth. They're not owned by multinational corporations exploring for oil. The Constitution says the atmosphere of the Earth that comes from Brazil, the forests of Brazil, all the way to India so that we can breathe the air, it doesn't belong to Brazil or India. It belongs to the people of Earth. The water, the air, the soil belong to all of us, and we need to find the mechanism for making that happen, and that is the Constitution for the Federation of Earth. So my colleague has passed out a flyer to you.
You can get the soft copy on the net.
And on that flyer, on the one side it talks about 10 principles of global ethics and world citizenship. In the Vedas, magnanimous persons are persons who don't identify with their little race, their little family, their little religion, their little nation. Magnanimous persons are persons who